Hi, my name is EJ Massa. I'm coming to you live from my new spooky basement. I've been busy moving in, and I'm trying to figure out where to put all my skulls. I mean, the basement is the obvious choice, but what if I had a dedicated skull room? Nobody needs both a family room and a living room. Maybe the living room could be the skull room. Living room being the skull room, that'd be quite ironic. Oh yeah, this video is about bread. I've already made a video about baking homemade bread, but what's really fun is making a sourdough starter. That's right, we'll be capturing and enslaving wild yeast, forcing it to do our bidding, then we'll show our thanks by baking it alive in an oven. Want to hear more about my skull room? I got interested in sourdough starters from this website Breadtopia, and Breadtopia got this idea from this person Deborah Wink, and Deborah Wink probably got this idea from medieval serfs or something. So now I'm going to take the recipe and I'm going to make a video about it. So thus the chain continues. Hey, why don't you keep it up? Why don't you make a video about my video? Everything is a snake eating itself.
First, I put 3½ tablespoons of all-purpose flour into a very decorative bowl. Then I got out some unsweetened pineapple juice. It's important it doesn't have any extra sugar added. This organic one will do. I took a 1/4 cup of pineapple juice and mixed it all together. Then I regret using a whisk and getting the stuck bits off my whisk. You should have a nice wet paste which you'll cover and set aside for 48 hours.
The pineapple juice isn't for flavor, it's just to create an environment for this yeast to thrive. Where's the yeast coming from? Well, it's in the air right now. It's on the flour that we're going to be using. It's probably all over your body right now, you disgusting, filthy pig. Some people say whole wheat flour is better because it harbors more yeast spores, but I'm just using all-purpose flour because that's what I got.
During those 48 hours, you can stir it 2 or 3 times a day. You'll notice I labeled it sourdough starter, not trash. That's so people don't think my cup of trash is actual trash. After 2 days, not much is going on, but we'll add 2 more tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of pineapple juice again, setting it aside for 48 hours, stirring 2 to 3 times a day. Now on the 4th day we see, hey, that's a different container. What happened to the decorative bird bowl?
Alright, let me level with you. On the 4th day, there wasn't any activity in my first batch. It's none. Was not alive. Which makes sense, because you'll probably have a successful starter like 40% of the time. So I started a new batch and I didn't film the process again for consistency because I'm aggressively lazy. I mean, I wanted to create a teaching moment for you. That was always my intent. I'm like a wise father to you. A wise, sexy father.
Anyways, now this is what we want to see that I didn't see in my first batch. Nice foamy activity. And one of the few times you want to see foamy activity. Usually when I have foamy activity, that means I have to see the doctor and get a bunch of shots in my stomach. That foamy activity means we got a live one here. Now add 3 tablespoons of water and 5 1/4 tablespoons of flour. Mix it all around and we'll set it aside for another 24 hours.
This recipe calls for purified water and look, I'm not your dad. Well, I mean, I just said I was your wise, sexy father, but I'm like a cool, wise father who lets you make your own mistakes. So go ahead, use whatever water you want. Daddy doesn't care. Oh, that doesn't sound right.
So now our starter is bubbly, it's alive and active. I'm going to transfer it over to a wide-mouthed mason jar. I'll add 1/4 cup of flour and 1/3 cup of water. Mix it up again and lightly screw on the top. I do want to make sure there's some amount of airflow so it won't be screwed on tight. Just to see how active it is, I made a mark with Sharpie. And a few hours later, wow, look how much it rose. We have a healthy active starter which we can use to make a nice sourdough.
Now if you wanted to wait and make a loaf later, you could take the starter, you could put it in the fridge and it'll be fine there. And every once in a while, every couple days, take it out, let it come up to room temperature, put it in a 1/2 cup of flour and a 1/3 cup of water or a similar ratio to that. This will keep it alive, let it rise for a few hours, bubble up, and then put it back in the fridge and take it out when you're ready to bake. But you know what? I'm ready to bake it now. I need some crusty, delicious bread. Damn it!
I'll take a heaping 1/4 cup of the starter and drop it into a cup of water. Stir it all around with a dainty whisk. Using a dainty whisk makes me feel like a big man. Then I'll add 2 cups of bread flour to a bowl. Pour in my water starter slurry. Oh, and I almost forgot, the 1 teaspoon of sea salt. Then we'll mix it all around until we finally get a cohesive dough. I'll cover in plastic wrap and let it rise for around 18 hours.
You'll notice that this is a relatively smaller loaf than the one I made in my previous bread video. This is because my wife and I don't eat a lot of bread, it's just the 2 of us, so if you want to make a larger loaf, just add another cup of flour, another 1/2 cup of water, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
After the 18 hours are up, I floured a surface with wheat flour. I like the texture of wheat flour for this step, but feel free to use whatever you like. Then I'm going to stretch out the dough a little to, stretch out all those gluten molecules. I don't know, some sort of science. I'm sure it helps. Then I'll fold it onto itself to make a ball-like structure and cover that with plastic for 15 minutes. Then we'll remove the plastic and shape the dough into a nice firm ball, adding more flour as necessary. Once you have a beautiful looking dinosaur egg looking ball of dough, we'll put it in a flour coated proofing basket, seam side down, or if you don't have a basket, just a flour coated surface. I like to add a little more flour to the top of the dough as well, which is actually the bottom. Yeah. Cover with a towel and we'll let it rise for an hour and a half. At the hour mark of our wait, we'll turn on the oven to around 450 degrees. Although I like to go a little bit lower on this oven because it runs hot. Place a cast iron 6-quart Dutch oven in there, and we'll put it in there for 30 minutes to heat up. We'll take out the Dutch oven and carefully place the dough in there. I like to give it a gentle shake so the dough moves to the center, then off to the oven it goes. Since this is a small loaf, I put it in the oven for 20 minutes. A larger loaf can probably go for 30 minutes. Then we'll remove the lid and bake for another 10 minutes to darken up that crust. Finally, we'll drop it on a cooling rack. Finally, we'll carefully drop it on a cooling rack to cool. Wow, totally nailed it on my first try. I'm perfect. And look at that, a beautiful tall loaf of sourdough bread. Give it a tap and you'll see that it has a nice crispy crust. Now to taste it. Yeah. So it's not going to be like that cartoon sourdough you'll get from Panera. It's a lot like my no-knead bread recipe, but with a much more subtle, complex flavor.
So I hope you enjoyed this non-meaty episode of EJ Cooks. No animals were harmed in the making of this video, unless you count all the millions of yeast cells that perished in the service of my stomach. And all the humans. Anyway, until next time, bye!